Jeremiah 49 verse 20. Therefore hear the counsel of the Lord Yahweh that he had taken against Edom, and his purposes that he had purposed against the inhabitants of Teman. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitations desolate with them. Jeremiah 50 verse 45. Therefore hear ye the counsel of the Lord Yahweh that he had taken against Babylon, and his purposes that he hath purposed against the land of the Chaldeans. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them. From the Sputnik, Iran will never get nukes on my watch, Biden says as he vows ironclad commitment to Israel. This proves that Esau Edom is a devil, which means deceiver, and cannot be trusted. Shalom, all praises, glories, and honors to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Racha Kodash. Double honors to my apostles and elders of Great Millstone who have taught me this truth, as well of men of like mind. Shalom wa chasad, which means peace and mercy to the elect of the nation of Israel, whom are you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians, and Israelite foreigners of the seed line of our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, whom are scattered here in America, which is Babylon the Great, and abroad. To you I say Shalom, and Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua Tazah. This lesson is edifying. The Biden-Rivlin sit-down came amid the U.S. administration's apparent efforts to re-enter the Iran nuclear deal, which was unilaterally abandoned by Washington in 2018. And I'll mind you, these devils are so-called trying to re-enter this old nuclear deal with Iran, but yet Joe Biden, the president of America, Babylon the Great, is saying that Iran will never get nukes, meaning intercontinental ballistic missiles, which Iran has been rapidly producing over the past year, provoking the state of Israel, which is the least of the flock, who will draw America, Babylon the Great, out into the Middle East to be a guard unto them, sparking the Third World War, and thus causing Russia to get involved and becoming a guard unto Iran, according to the book of Ezekiel, the 38th chapter. This also proves that no matter how sweetly these devils may speak, or no matter how much so-called hope they might give a person or a nation, it's really all just lies. Because when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction follows. U.S. President Joe Biden has made it clear that he is not going to tolerate Iran implementing its nuclear program. And by the way, the Democrats have always been known for war. They love war. But not just them, but Esau, Edom as a nation. What I can say to you is that Iran will never get a nuclear weapon on my watch, the President of the United States said during a meeting with ongoing Israeli President Rivlin in Washington on Monday. So basically, America is kissing the ass of the state of Israel. Biden added that he had ordered airstrikes targeting facilities the U.S. military claims were used by Iran-backed militia groups near the border between Iraq and Syria. Sunday's airstrikes allegedly targeted facilities used by the groups the Shiite militias Kataib Hezbollah and Kataib Saeed al-Shahada, which are part of the popular Mobilization Forces (PMF), Iraq's paramilitary corps established in 2014 to fight Daesh. The PMF has denied having any such depots in the areas the U.S. claimed to have struck. Basically, they struck Iranian-backed militias. The strikes were followed by a rocket attack against an American base in eastern Syria. Guys, they've been claiming that a lot of drone attacks have been happening against them, and so on and so forth, with the identity of the attackers still unknown. During the Washington sit-down, Biden also pledged his ironclad commitment to Israel, saying, "It's real. It's something that I often say, if there weren't an Israel, we'd have to invent one." See that? Let's prove this man's the devil. Revival of the JCPOA. The talks came after White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said last week that the Biden administration is looking forward to seeing the direction of the ongoing talks with Iran for the U.S. to return to the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, which, as we've stated before, to the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, this is not going to happen. Because you see, these nations are preparing for the third world's woe, written of in the book of Revelation, chapter 11, verse 14. It states, "The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly." What is the third woe? The third world's war. A war that will be fought with burning and fuel of fire through those ICBM nuclear missiles. And that is why these different nations that were once weak and that are now saying that they're strong, because now they possess ICBM nuclear missiles, are now taking, and have been, their economic wealth and using them towards the research and development of weapons of mass destruction, and chiefly above them, ICBM nuclear missiles, because they understand that the season of war is here and that the third world war approaches quickly. But you see, America has been this bully and is trying to be this bully, this big bully for the state of Israel over Iran. It shows you that what? Iran is going to play a major role in the initiation of the third world's war. And not just Iran, but really the state of Israel. Because they will be the ones to initiate it, because it says the least of the flock is going to draw them out. Which is, the them is America, Babylon the Great. Because America will need to then become that guard onto the state of Israel. Because Iran is going to be retaliating aggressively. Also known as the Iran nuclear deal, America unilaterally withdrew from 2018. Because you see, the state of Israel wants to be the only nuclear superpower in the Middle East. They want complete dominance. We don't currently have diplomatic relations with Iran or any plans to meet at the leader level. So it's unclear that anything has actually changed on that front, Psaki told reporters last Monday. Talks to revive the JCPOA have been going on in Vienna since April. The agreement is not a legally binding treaty, but since the U.S. reimposed economic sanctions against Iran after then President Trump announced Washington's unilateral exit from the deal in May 2018, Tehran has steadily backed away from its commitments made as part of the agreement, meaning that they've been ramping up their production of the development of nuclear missiles. A law passed by the Iranian Modulus in December 2020 contains mandated increases in the quality and quantity of uranium refining and decrease in cooperation with the International Atomic Energy Agency (IAEA) inspectors. Iranian leaders have repeatedly insisted that the Islamic Republic doesn't seek, to obtain a nuclear weapon, which that's a lie. You know that they have a nuclear city, despite claims to the contrary by Israel and the U.S. Because you see, again, these nations, the Lord is putting it in their spirits to prepare for war, man. Iran's position is that since the U.S. was the first to leave the deal, it is Washington who must first return to the JCPOA. We know that these devils have pride. While the White House argues the ball is in Tehran's court. America's partners that are not party to the deal, such as Israel and Saudi Arabia, have pushed for the JCPOA to be expanded to include Iran's ballistic missile arsenal because they want to completely disarm Iran. Iranian President-elect Ibrahim Raisi, for his party, says that his country's missile program is non-negotiable and that the U.S. is obligated to lift all oppressive sanctions against Iran. Washington's withdrawal from the JCPOA fueled simmering tensions between the U.S. and Iran. And don't forget the assassination of Qasem Soleimani last year, one of Iran's top generals, or their top general. Oh, well, there you go. They even mentioned it. While escalated after top Iranian commander General Qasem Soleimani was killed in early 2020 by a U.S. drone strike authorized by then President Trump. Daesh, a terrorist group banned in Russia and a number of other countries. So, this concludes the article. Now let's get to the scriptures and conclude the lesson. Again, this is Jeremiah 49 verse 20, and then Jeremiah 50 and 45. Now, what I want you brothers and sisters to take note of is that in 49 and 20 it says Edom, and in 50 and 45 it says Babylon, which shows you that the two are synonymous, because Esau, Edom, the so-called Caucasian race, beginning with their hegemony, rules modern-day Babylon, which is America, which is spiritual Egypt, according to Revelation 11, verse 8, and Sodom. Okay? So Jeremiah 49, verse 20. Therefore hear the counsel of the Lord Yahweh that he had taken against Edom. Who is Edom? The wicked. Malachi 1 and 4. Beginning with their hegemony, in whose hand, which in the Hebrew is Yad, which means power or strength, the earth, according to the book of Job, chapter 9, verse 24, has been given into. And his purposes that he had purposed against the inhabitants of Teman. Modern day Teman is America, Babylon the Great. For Teman was an ancient capital of the Edomites. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. The least of the flock is referring to the state of Israel. The state of Israel is going to provoke and then eventually attack Iran, initiating the Third World War, and thus causing them to retaliate, and then causing America to become a guard unto the least of the flock, which is Israel, and then getting Russia involved, becoming a guard unto Iran, according to the prophecy in Ezekiel 38th chapter. Okay, the 38th chapter, if my accent, makes it sound a little different. It says, surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitations desolate with them. So the Lord's going to make the habitations of Esau, Edom, desolate with him. He's going to make the habitation of the least of the flock, which is over there in the land of Israel. Because right now, the Edomites are occupying that land. And then over here in America, Babylon the Great, desolate by way of thermonuclear missiles. Okay. This is Jeremiah 50, verse 45. Therefore hear ye the counsel of the Lord Yahweh, that he had taken against Babylon. See that? And his purposes that he had purposed against the land of the Chaldeans. The Chaldeans, who are the modern day Chaldeans? The Edomites. The ancient Chaldeans were witches and warlocks of ancient Babylon. Your modern day Chaldeans, your modern day witches and warlocks are the Edomites. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out, which you already broke that down to the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them, because, again, the Lord is not going to completely obliterate the kingdom of the wicked by way of thermonuclear missiles or of thermonuclear fire. Revelation chapter 9, verse 16, and the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000. And I heard the number of them. And so the ICBM nuclear missiles are being likened unto an army of horsemen, and their number are going to be 200,000, which is 200 million. And so the Lord is going to utilize 200 million nuclear warheads to destroy the kingdom of Esau Edom. And thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them having breastplates of fire, and of jacinth and brimstone, and the heads of the horses were as the heads of lions. So obviously the ICBM nuclear missiles are made out of metal. That's why it's stated having breastplates of fire, because an actual physical horse is not made up of metal. It's made up of what? Flesh. It's a living being, having breastplates of fire and of jacinth and brimstone, and the heads of the horses. And a horse is known for its strength, especially in its legs, whereas the heads of lions, the heads of the horses, the heads of the warheads of the ICBM nuclear missiles, whereas the heads of lions, because a lion's head is where its power is at, its jaws, and that's where the fire is going to come out from the warhead, and out of their mouths issued fire and smoke and brimstone, meaning out of the warheads. By these three was the third part of men killed. The third part of men is referring to the Edomites, the wicked. By the fire and by the smoke and by the brimstone which issued out of their mouths. For their power is in their mouth and in their tails, meaning the engine that propels them from one continent to the next after they are launched from the nuclear silos. In their tails, for their tails were like unto serpents, because once they leave the nuclear silos, they leave a trail of smoke behind that looks like that of a serpent, and had heads, and with them they do hurt. So the Lord's going to bring great judgment soon, man. We got to enjoy the second chapter. Malachi 4 verse 1, Psalms 21 verse 9, Isaiah 9 and 5, Isaiah 66 verse 15 on down, so on and so forth. So I pray this lesson was edifying and informative to the elect. Lord's willing, until the next, I say Shalom. Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, Bahashem Achak Dash Brakatam to the elect. Shalom.